You can never control the cards you were dealt, which often puts you on a path you cannot control. You can hate every moment of that journey, wish for an alternate path. However, it is that very path that sometimes leads to the sweetest victory. This is the struggle and the story from Andre Agassi's autobiography. Andre Agassi's journey to becoming one of the greatest tennis players in history is not just about his victories on the court. It's about his struggle with the path he was forced to take, a path he initially despised, battling the pressure of an overbearing father, fighting through career lows and self-doubt. This is the story of how an unwanted journey led to triumph and ultimately self-discovery. From day one, tennis wasn't just some sport for him. Nah, tennis was life, or rather, his dad's life. Andre's dad, Mike Agassi, was a former boxer representing Iran in the Olympic Games in 1948 and 1952. Grew up in hardship before immigrating to America and creating this vision for Andre to be a tennis player. This wasn't about being good, this was about domination, and Andre had to be the best. From the second he could hold a racket, the mission was clear: become a champion. But here's the thing, it wasn't Andre's dream, it was his dad's obsession. The man made him hit thousands of balls every single day. Imagine that. Day in, day out, relentless. And let's be real, that's not the kind of pressure any kid should have to face. From the moment I could walk, I was holding a racket. My father's vision for me was clear: to be the best, to dominate. But there's a price to pay for that kind of grind. His dad's demands were heavy. Thousands of balls, no excuses. Mess up, you're not good enough. Succeed, you're supposed to. Andre wasn't just playing tennis, he was enduring it. And the worst part, it wasn't really his choice. My father yells at me to hit every ball on the rise, or else it will bounce over my head. But even that's not enough for my father. Hit earlier, my father yells. Hit earlier. The constant grind set the stage for Andre's elite mentality. But let's face it, at what cost? Tennis wasn't something he loved, it was something he feared. Every time he won, it felt empty. Every match was just another reminder of the life he did not choose. I was a tennis player, a good one, but I wasn't a person. I didn't know who I was or what I wanted. I've always thought about the parent and child dynamic in sports potentially being a gift or a curse. How many times have we seen relationships break down because the athlete feels they are being pushed too hard, and it can kind of get confusing between parent and child. The child can kind of feel as though the parent is not caring, is not loving, or simply doesn't know when to take a break. Imagine day in, day out, continuously doing something you could potentially like, but the pressure and the work has sucked all the joy out of the game. Andre wasn't the only one struggling with tennis. His big bro, Philly, played a pivotal role during Andre's early career, helping him navigate the demanding world of tennis. Together, they fought for success and survival. Like most older brothers, Philly became more than a brother. He was Andre's protector, ally, and support system through the darkest times. The very same road Andre was going down, Philly had walked before. Except, Philly, according to his dad, didn't have the natural gift. The gusto. Was weak, mentally broken, didn't have what it took. In the early days, Philly was working just as hard to make sure his brother could chase the dreams that neither of them had chosen. Imagine being in a family where the children's relationship with their dad is fractured because of his intense passion for his kids to be successful. Philly was my rock. He reminded me that there was life outside of tennis, that I was more than just a tennis player. He gave me the strength to keep going. Now, imagine hating a sport because you're forced to play, be a star and support the family. However, the only thing giving you peace or solace is your family being close. Then all of a sudden, poof, that's gone. At the age of 13, Andre was sent away to the Bollettieri Tennis Academy, a boot camp for tennis prodigies. Instead of being in this dream experience, Andre felt like he was doing a prison sentence. And as you know, when people want to say something but feel they can't for whatever reason, the next thing they do is act out. If talking isn't working, I've got to do something else for you to hear me. And that's where the rebellion started. Piercing his body, growing his hair long, cutting classes, it was screaming for help. He wanted out, not just from tennis, but from the whole life that came with it. And let's be real, Anyone who's stuck in a job or a situation they hate, you probably know exactly how he feels. I did everything I could to get kicked out of that place. But no matter what I did, they kept me. I was their star boy, but I was dying inside. I paced my body, broke rules, busted curfew, picked fistfights, and threw tantrums. What rebellion is left? In this whirlwind of trying to establish himself as a tennis professional, find his identity outside of tennis, and deal with his fractured relationship with his dad, Andre found one person who didn't just see him as a tennis player, Gil Reyes. Now, Gil was different. He wasn't just about tennis, he was about Andre, the person. The man became like a father figure, a mentor, showing Andre there was more to life than this relentless game of tennis. You ever met someone who talks to you when you're going through something and it's like everything they say just makes sense? They seem to understand how to get the truth you've been searching for to just make sense. Jill wasn't interested in tennis, he was interested in me. He taught me about my body, but more importantly, he taught me to listen to myself. Despite his rebellious spirit, the world saw only his victories on the court. To them, Andre was a star, but inside, he was lost, searching for meaning, looking for an identity beyond the game that consumed his life. Andre bagged his first pro tournament in Itapreca, Brazil. This should have been a moment of pure joy. He'd done it, proven himself, and walked away with cheeky 90 bags, $90,000. Success didn't feel like success. It marked the beginning of new complexities, trying to manage success and navigate the intense pressure that would follow. I finished 1987 with a bang. I win my first tournament as a pro in Itapreca, Brazil. A man hands me the winner's check and I have to do a double take because I see the amount of $90,000. Behind the scenes, Andre was getting mad. His long flowing hair, that was a key part of his rock star image, he was losing it. To keep up appearances, he started wearing a wig, and this was stressing him out. Like proper anxiety. The pressure of trying to keep up this secret was a heavy burden. And it almost messed him up before the 1990 French Open final. These were the days before Turkey. Now you can just jet off to Antalya or Istanbul. No one sees you for a month, and before you know it, poof, head full of hair. But for Andre, he had to rock that wig to stay in character. Imagine having the pressure of winning a Grand Slam and the fear your wig might slip off in the middle of a rally. It's wild to think. You're facing top elite players, but low-key you're praying your wig doesn't do a runner. His hair wasn't just falling out, his confidence was crumbling with it. Of course I could play without my hairpiece, but I'm too self-conscious. I'm thinking, what if it falls off? The thought distracts me the whole match. Without it, I felt exposed, vulnerable. But wearing it was suffocating. I was living a lie, both on and off the court. Brad Gilbert, the man who would not only revolutionize Andre's game, but also his mentality. Brad recognized that Andre was plagued by what he called the disease of perfectionism. I could imagine Andre's upbringing put that notion in his head that every ball he swung had to be perfect. But Brad didn't care about perfect shots. He cared about winning, even if it was ugly. His philosophy was about playing smart, not playing pretty. And that was a game changer for Andre. Brad tells me, just focus on winning ugly. That's the key. Winning, not looking perfect. Under Brad's guidance, Andre started letting go of this obsession with perfection. He began thinking differently, utilizing strategy, adaptability, mental toughness. It wasn't just about talent anymore. Andre was learning that it takes more than just skill. You need a mindset to match. You don't need to hit winners on every shot. Play percentages. Stay in the point and make them beat you. But no matter how much progress Andre was making with Brad, there was still one person who always had him on the ropes. Pete Sampras. You know, there's a saying in sport that there's usually always one person or a team that for whatever reason just have your number. Pete was everything Andre wasn't. Quiet, methodical, and seemingly unbeatable. Their rivalry was legendary, but for Andre, it was a constant source of self-doubt, a gentle reminder that it did not matter how hard he worked, Pete always seemed to just be a little bit better. And at times, that's just difficult to take. I've lost to Pete again. I don't want to admit to myself that a loss to Pete can have this kind of lingering effect. And as if dealing with Pete wasn't enough, Andre hit rock bottom. Injuries started to pile up. The pressures of fame were at an all-time high. And his personal life was falling apart. That's where he made a choice that nearly destroyed him. He turned to drugs. It wasn't just a casual mistake. It was a desperate attempt to escape everything that was weighing on him. I get a phone call. It's a man with a gruff voice, a voice of judgment and condemnation. a voice of authority. The urine sample you submitted has been found to contain trace amounts of drug substances. The drug scandal could have ended everything. His career, his reputation, everything. This was the turning point for Andre. He could either let it destroy him, or he could fight back. And that's where the real battle began. If that wasn't enough drama, his marriage with Brooke Shields was falling apart. From the outside, they looked like this perfect Hollywood couple, but inside, a mess, totally disconnected. Her rising career in Hollywood only added to Andre's feelings of isolation. Everything was going downhill. Brooke and I buy a house in the Pacific. It's not the house I wanted. Our relationship feels like this house, empty, staged, and unsatisfying. Their relationship was falling apart. And when they finally divorced, it wasn't the end of their marriage. It was the end of Andre's whole facade. The rock star tennis player with the long hair and celebrity wife. Everything he'd been holding on to, everything that defined him in the public eye, falling apart. Brooke and I get divorced. I feel empty. I wonder what I've been fighting for all these years. But then in these dark times, Gil come through with some advice once again. Like a rock, he always is. Gil wasn't just helping Andre get fit for tennis, he was helping him rebuild as a person. This wasn't about winning matches anymore. It was about a gut check, doing some soul searching. You know that point in life where everything you thought made sense no longer makes sense? And you have to do some soul searching to find out who you really are and what exactly you want to do. Gil says, "You got some strong shoulders. Stand on them while you look for your star. I'll give you a boost, but I can't find a star for you." Andre's fighting the biggest battle of his life, not on the court, but within himself. The pressure of fame, the rivalry with Pete, the breakdown of his marriage, and the drug scandal. All of it's trying to pull him down under. But with Gil's support and his own strength, can he rebuild? The journey to redemption has begun, and there's still a long road ahead. So now we've hit the lowest point in Andre's story. Man's at rock bottom. He's dealing with the fallout from the drug scandal, his marriage is in pieces, and his career feels like it's slipping through his fingers. This is where he needed to be for the transformation to start. Andre knew he couldn't just rebuild his career, he needed to rebuild himself. Tennis? That was secondary. The real challenge was figuring out who he was beyond the game, beyond the life everybody had created for him. I didn't just need to rebuild my career, I needed to rebuild myself. I had to figure out who I was, beyond the tennis court, beyond the expectations. And then, in the middle of all this chaos, Andre met someone who completely changed the game for him, Steffi Graf. Steffi wasn't just another love interest, she was stability for him. She understood what it meant to live under the pressure of being an elite athlete, and that kind of understanding was exactly what Andre needed. For the first time, he had someone in his life who got him and understood him on a deeper level. Meeting Stephanie changed everything. With her, I felt like I was finally with someone who understood me, who shared the same pressures, the same struggles. We didn't have to explain anything to each other, we just got it. This wasn't just romance, this was healing. Steffi gave Andre the balance he'd been craving for so long. He wasn't alone anymore. She showed him there was more to life than just tennis. Steffi's presence made everything easier. She made me want to be better, not just on the court, but in life. I was learning what real partnership and love looked like for the very first time. Then came one of the most symbolic moments in Andre's transformation, shaving his head. Remember how important his hair was to him, and losing it messed with his head. Shaving it off wasn't just about looks. It was about letting go of all the lies, the expectations, and the image he'd been hiding behind for so many years. It was about facing the world as his truest self. It's crazy how, as soon as you start finding yourself, all the things you felt that you needed to hold on to become less important, and you willingly just let them go. Shaving my head was the most liberating thing I'd ever done. It was like I was finally letting go of all the lies, all the expectations. I was just me. With Steffi by his side, Gil Reyes and Brad Gilbert still in his corner, Andre was ready to attack the court, but this time with a completely different mentality. He wasn't just chasing perfection anymore. He wasn't trying to prove anything to anyone. He was just playing for himself. For the first time, maybe ever, for the joy of the game. And with that newfound perspective, Andre started his comeback. Brad told me, "You've been through the fire and you've come out stronger. Now play like you've got nothing to prove. You've already proven enough." Brad's advice hit deep. Andre wasn't weighed down by the need to be perfect. He was playing with freedom, with a sense of joy that he hadn't felt before. And with Gil's help, he was physically stronger than ever, ready to take on whatever the sport threw at him. The real turning point came in 1999 when Andre won the French Open. Now, this one wasn't just about another Grand Slam title. It was about something bigger. It completed his career Grand Slam, making him one of the few players in tennis history to win all 4 major titles. But more importantly, it was a symbol of his rebirth. He'd risen from the ashes and achieved greatness on his own terms. When I won the French Open, I wasn't just winning for myself. I was winning for everyone who had supported me, everyone who believed in me, even when I didn't believe in myself. Now, even though Andre had come full circle, there was still Pete Sampras looming in the background. Their rivalry was one for the history books, and every loss to Pete had always felt like a personal failure to Andre. But now, with his new mentality, new mindset, he looks at it differently. Instead of seeing those losses as failures, Andre began to see them as lessons. Pete wasn't just the enemy anymore. He was someone who pushed Andre to be the very best version of himself. I lost to Pete again, but this time, it didn't feel like the end of the world. Pete made me better. He forced me to be the best version of myself. That's real growth right there. Andre had finally found peace, not just with Pete, but with himself, the whole journey. He didn't need to chase validation through victories anymore. His transformation was complete. Then, the beauty of fatherhood can open your eyes to a whole new world. The birth of Andre's son, Jaden Gill, changed everything for him. For the first time, Andre felt like there was something bigger than tennis, bigger than the game. He wasn't just playing for himself anymore. He was playing for his family, for his son, for the future. When the doctor handed me Jaden, something clicked. For the first time in my life, tennis wasn't the most important thing. I had a bigger role to play, a bigger responsibility. Fatherhood brought a sense of fulfillment that tennis never could. It gave Andre a new purpose, and it helped him finally let go of the resentment he'd carried for so long. I think Andre, through such an experience, was able to gain an understanding of his father. Though he may not have agreed with his father's tactics, I think in the end he understood, allowing him to let go of the anger that was in his heart. The game that had once felt like a prison was now a tool he could use to give back to make a real impact. And that's where Andre's school in Las Vegas comes in. Tennis had been a source of pain and frustration for so many years, but now it became a way for Andre to create change. Through his school, he was helping kids who didn't have the opportunities he had growing up. It wasn't about fame or fortune anymore, it was about making a lasting difference. The greatest thing I've done isn't winning a Grand Slam. It's building a school that gives kids a chance, a real chance to succeed. That's the kind of legacy Andre wanted to leave behind, something that transcended the tennis court, something that would last long after his career was over. And when the time finally came for Andre to walk away from tennis, he did it with grace. His body was giving up, but his spirit was stronger than ever. Andre knew it was time to go, time to bow out. This time, he left the game on his own terms. No regrets, no resentment, peace of mind. I'm the oldest player in 31 years to win a slam. I realize I've done everything right, and I can feel the finish line. In 2006, Andre said his final goodbye to tennis, but this time he left not as the rebellious star or the tortured soul, but as a man who had mastered not just the game, but his journey and his mind. He found his peace, his purpose, and fulfillment. Imagine growing up with this constant pressure to be the best, fighting through doubts, facing setbacks that could have ended it all. But Andre didn't just survive, he transformed. He went from resenting the sport that defined him to mastering his journey and using it to make an impact far beyond the tennis court. Andre's journey wasn't a straightforward path. It was messy, filled with lows, highs, and unexpected turns. But that's the real lesson. It's not about where you start or even where you finish, but how you play the hand you were dealt. Andre found his purpose beyond tennis, through family, love, and giving back to the next generation. That's real success. That's winning. And remember, trying to win without knowing why you're chasing will always leave you feeling empty. The real victory comes from owning your journey and making peace with it, no matter how hard or unexpected it might be. Andre's story shows us that even when the journey isn't what you wanted, it can still lead you to the sweetest victory. Thanks for tuning in. Keep grinding, keep pushing, and find your why.